Welcome back to the Habit-Based Lifestyle Podcast. I'm your host, Jesse Ewell, and today we're going to be talking about the habit of breathing. I have two special guests with me, the founders of Optio2 Labs, Austin Mallett and Jake Schuler. They are the creators of the Optio2 Sport. This is a mouthpiece that actually inhibits airflow. It makes it impossible to breathe through your mouth while training. And it allows you to train and breathe optimally to increase your performance while working out. So I want to thank you guys for being here on the show. I'm excited to dive into this and talk about it. And I know it's kind of a new thing that you guys are launching just in the last few months. So I'm excited to have you guys here. So welcome.
Yeah, thanks, Jesse. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks, Jesse.
So you guys have a couple unique stories. And I think it's cool how you guys kind of came up with this concept, but I really want to know about kind of like, where you guys were, originally, kind of what got you to this place. And maybe both of you guys can take a turn on this and just kind of paint, hey, how did we get to where we are today?
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. I can start. Austin and I are friends. We're friends before we started this. But going further back from that, I know he and I both have always personally been into training and training for higher performance, bigger, faster, stronger, all that. We both grew up playing sports. I actually my background, I grew up playing sports and really, like I said, more about the training, the activity side of it, the working on the performance side.
Sure.
Obviously, that translates to sports, and I used it in sports, but I was really more into the running faster, the jumping higher, all of that. That was kind of my obsession growing up, really. And so much so that I went to school for it. That's what I ended up going to school and wanted to make my career out of. So I went to the University of Tennessee, Knoxville, and while I was there, I worked in the Vols weight room as an assistant strength coach for a couple of years, and also ended up working at D1 sports training as a strength coach. And in a sudden kind of twist, there was really, it's abrupt, but I ended up not finishing school for that, ended up leaving school. I have a family business, which is a whole other side of the backstory, that is a fourth generation family business. And I ended up leaving school and going and joining my family business. We had an opportunity arise and actually a need in the business. So I left and ended up doing that. So that's kind of where I veered off. Really, once I got into the business side, I didn't think I would, I didn't think I had to, but I ended up getting away from the fitness, from definitely from training for performance or any of that. It kind of hit that wasn't going to be my career anymore. And so I put it more towards the back burner, which as I got more into my career, moved maybe even off the back burner to almost non-existent, really. So
you went from working out, kind of diving full into this in college, to all of a sudden not doing anything with working out and just diving into your family business.
Absolutely. Yeah, which was a flooring business. I mean, completely unrelated, not active, way more in the office type of thing. I'll let Austin.
Yeah, and then my story, really just grew up playing sports. Played football, baseball, all that growing up. And then my senior year actually started, or junior year in high school, started boxing. I never boxed in my life. And that kind of just shocked me, the difference in thinking I was in shape for football and then trying to go to box, which is just a totally different realm of cardio. It really shocked me, and we had been doing but always growing up, I've always kind of been in the pursuit of quicker, faster ways to get from point A to point B as far as working out. We had a gym when I was younger. My dad, two of his buddies, and then my two best friends growing up, we started circuit training, and this is back in like early 2000s, before it was like a really big thing. And we had homemade machines and all of these different things to train you to compete in combines. We all wanted to go play college football. None of us actually went to play college football, but we definitely excelled as far as we could. So I've always kind of, and I've never really gotten away from it. I've always just any new thing that comes out, I want to try it or look into the science of it. How does that really work? Does it really work? And, so it's just been like a constant pursuit of really, I mean, I help friends work out and that type of thing, but really just trying to stay on top of it and stay healthy, fit. And obviously the easiest way to do that is preferred.
Sure. Okay. So you guys kind of go down this path of, we love working out. This is kind of like something we've done our whole lives. We're passionate about it. Jake, you stop for a little while and take a little bit of a break from that to focus on your business. Austin, did you ever take a break, or have you always kind of stuck with it?
No, I mean, I've had at the end of my senior year in high school, I crushed my ankle and a few bones in my leg, so I had to quit at that point. Which I hated cardio prior to that, but after that, I would, just being able to run, like get outside and run after, being stagnant for 6 weeks, 8 weeks was, I really enjoyed that. But yeah, I've never really completely taken off. I've definitely taken some, slowed down a bit, but I've never completely just gotten away from it.
Okay. So if we kind of fast forward to where you guys are today, you've launched this mouthpiece. What made you actually start, thinking about even doing this? Like, what was the beginning of this to even go into it?
Yeah, I mean, so to pick up, basically there's a gap in there from the time that I said that I got into my career, which, and even that, I think it's a very common story to hear people that at whatever point you hit the end of your sports career and you get away from working out, right? A lot of times you hear it from people that grew up playing very competitively and maybe not forced, but just it consumes so much of their life that they are excited to take a break from it, or they choose to take a break from it. But then there's the other side it's like mine, where you grow up active and life happens and you get away from it, and since that milestone, we'll say, of stopping working out, I have had, started 2 businesses. I got married. I've had 2 children. So like I said, life has happened, and
yeah, life happens, man.
Life happens, and you can, it's not an excuse. I mean, people can still manage to make it a priority, and it should. I would condone making it a priority. It's the most important thing there is. We know that, but I didn't. So that's the fact. So there's a big gap in there where all of that life was happening, and I really got away from it. So fast forward, I was 23 or something when I'm talking about getting away from it, and fast forward, I'm 34 now. And in the last 6 years primarily, so I have a flooring company that I started 6 years ago that has really been, I mean, even if I wanted to, maybe there were times that I wouldn't have been able to work in physical, as a priority.
Sure.
So I'll say very definitely for the last 6 years, I've been away from it, and I have been working towards and kind of having that carrot out there of, okay, one day I'm going to get back to it. I'm going to circle back to it. I really felt like at this point we've gotten everything. It's not, the company's still in startup phase. We just operate that way, but it's really gotten to a point where we've got it smooth enough that I could circle back and spend some time on myself, like that. So,
sure.
So this year was the one that I said, okay, I'm gonna get back into it. And I've got my wife is active, and she's an influence and helps kind of drive that too. So the beginning of this year, I really made it a priority to make that a priority. And I can tell you, I'm 34 now. Even if it was 6 years ago, the last time I really was training of any sort I was 28, right? I was 6 years ago. So I remembered it being a little different than I do now, today, coming back in, right? You hear about it. If you're on the other side, if you're on the lower side of 30, then maybe this won't register, but if you're above, it probably will. I got back into working out, and it was harder. Now, it was a lot harder. It really was. And it's probably a product of a lot of things, but my body moves slower. I used to train for vertical growing up. That was my thing. I was a basketball player, and I wanted to get to a 40-inch vertical. And
jump shoes?
I had everything they had. I had the jump shoes. I've done every program there is. I never hit 40. I got the 37 standing vert, and that was right about the time that I left school. So,
Okay.
so I had it in my head that maybe, okay, I like to have something out there to train for. So this year, maybe I could put that on there just as to have something else to train for. Well, that's another example of everything just moves slower. I'm like, I remember it being easy to get off the ground. It's not. So not to it's not a sob story. I'm not wanting anybody to feel bad. It's a normal thing. And I haven't ruled out either that you can regain explosiveness or any of that. I mean, I still, I see guys all the time.
Yeah. So let's talk about, like, when did you guys actually start, creating this mouthpiece, and like, how did you like get into that? And kind of when was it first born for both of you?
Okay,
so for me, it was. I'm gonna hijack this.
No, you're not. I mean, Jake kind of honestly brought the idea to me.
Okay.
Knowing that I work out all the time and that I enjoy this stuff, so that's when we started talking about it. So go ahead.
Yeah. So all this rambling is honestly kind of I'm trying to make it concise, but it's the backstory of how we got to it. So, started working out. It was harder. So I did what I used to do. I started digging into researching and learning anything I could about, how to get back to the level that I wanted to be at. And it started with some books and some reading and of course YouTube and everything. But the first book that I read, I can tell you, was called Peak Performance.
Okay.
You familiar with the book?
Yeah. Who wrote it?
I know. I wish I had the author. I'll look it up here in a second. But it's really, it was the premise of the book is that the most elite performers make recovery a huge priority. Okay. So, and it's really eye-opening because, I've always thought, and I'm thinking, I'm getting back into this and I'm thinking, okay, how can I get the maximum amount of sessions into a week, right? How can I recover faster so that I can get more sessions? The book will lay out there for you that it's really that's misguided a little bit. And so be focused on the recovery, and it takes a lot of patience and it's hard to do. But once you hear that, once you understand that elite athletes do it that way, you kind of have to adopt it, right? So anyways, that turned me on to recovery. So now my thing that I was digging into was recovery.
Sure.
And I stumbled across like ice, cold therapy and ice baths and all that.
Yeah.
And really got into the Wim Hof method. You familiar with Wim Hof?
Yep. Yeah.
Which is a mix of breathing protocols and cold exposure therapy. And it's very much dependent on it. There's a lot of breath work that goes into Wim Hof. The science is there and they back it up. And so I read some books about Wim Hof and it's there and it's all legit, but it's not as easy to understand really once you start doing it. It's a lot of hyperventilation in Wim Hof. And so deep breaths, short, quick, deep breaths. Well, I kept digging into it and I was going all in on Wim Hof, and I came across a review of Wim Hof that mentioned this other book called The Oxygen Advantage by Patrick June. And that really is where all of this starts, honestly. I read The Oxygen Advantage. It was way more on my level as far as I like to see all of the science and understand, okay, our body works this way, our biology is set up this way, and this is why. Here's what happens when this happens. Okay. He really does an awesome job of going into that and breaking everything down and telling us. And it's the premise of that book is that, in a nutshell, we're designed to breathe through our nose, in and out. And it's really not like a sometimes thing. It's not a gray area. That's what our noses are designed for. I can't remember if it's in the book or if I picked this up somewhere else, but our noses are part of the respiratory system. Our mouths are part of the digestive system, and there's really no gray area. Like that's what it is. Now that was huge, and I'll tell you something. We'll talk about some of the benefits that he goes into in the book, but that's as far as part of the story. That's where I myself said, okay, well, I've got to breathe through my nose. I got to change everything immediately. And me, myself, that's how I do it. I'm always, dive in. And so people will find out, and people listening know that to switch something as big as how you breathe isn't, overnight. Y'all are the same way. I'm sure you figure out something you want to do differently, and you want to do it immediately,
Right.
especially when you understand the reasons why you want to do it. So again,
well, let me kind of go through this. So you read this thing that, you read about, hey, your respiratory system, is through breathing through your nose. Your digestive system has to do with your mouth. So you learn this, like, how do you first start, like, doing this? Do you just do you put duct tape on your mouth and in your workouts and just start breathing through your nose? Or like, how do you first start doing this?
Okay, so I myself, I started with tape, and really just trying to keep my mouth closed was the first step. Experimenting with tape. I don't really like tape. It does a little bit of like a claustrophobic effect to me. It's not by any means natural, but it's odd. But that's the point in the story where I called Austin and I said, hey, Austin and I work together anyways already, and I can work friends. And I called him. I said, I know that he comes from an active background. I know that Austin is driven and has other interests as far as like business and developing something as well. So I called him. I said, hey, there's something out there that there's not a solution for as far as I've seen. There's nothing that I've read this book. And first of all, I said, hey, read this book and let's start there. So yeah. I sent him the book and.
Yeah, so he sent it to me, and my fiance and I were actually going on a road trip, so I put the audiobook on. About 5 hours into the audiobook, we pulled over and bought tape, and we're like driving half the trip with tape over our mouth, just trying to, see how it affects us. And like some of the breath work and everything in there, it really did kind of give me a calming sense. And I'm like, okay, maybe there is something to this. Finished reading the book after, me and Jake talked about it a good bit. And almost immediately though, our initial reaction was everyone, there's thousands of people all over the world putting tape over their mouth.
Right.
Why? There's got to be a better way. And we both immediately started looking for something, and we're, maybe the next day we were like, man, there's a huge opportunity here. We need to create something that can, fix this problem. And that's where we ended up. That's where the whole idea behind the mouthpiece came into play.
Okay, so you guys create this mouthpiece, or like, how do you actually, do you guys sit down and you're like, dude, let's create a mouthpiece. Did you try a couple other things? Like, how did you actually get to the mouthpiece?
We started, I sent him, I sent him the link to the book or whatever. And we started just at like, hey, let's brainstorm and see how we can make ourselves do this. So he knew that I was getting back into exercising. We were doing it together some. And we didn't set out to create something to sell. We should say that. We did see something that we started researching, and we couldn't find anything. We tried some regular mouthpieces, or some regular mouth guards. That's the only thing we could find, really. Right. That and
sleep guards,
options. Sleep guards, yeah.
Mouth guards, anything on the like everything Amazon had. Pretty much.
But nothing. Didn't come across anything that, the premise behind it is completely to hold you accountable. It's not, it's even, we tell people it's not supposed to be a lifelong product, really. If you could use this and learn how to retrain your breathing, basically, because what you'll find in the book is that 80% of people are mouth breathers now, and it goes like, we don't have to go into all the science. We're not scientists. We stay very surface level. But if you read the book, and we can talk about some of the main points from it, but we don't go too deep into it. But we knew we wanted something that would not allow us to breathe through our mouths when we wanted to, right? And so that's how we ended up coming up with it.
Yeah, you're like, dude, I've been in the training industry for 20 years. One of the things that you would constantly see, I owned 2 personal training facilities. And one of the things that I would constantly see is people would come into the gym and because of, their lifestyle, because of sitting, in a chair all day because of, cell phones. They're stuck in this, breathing pattern that's dysfunctional, and I've studied Postural Restoration Institute, studied a lot on breathing. And one of the things that we would often find with people is they had no idea how to breathe. And so that was kind of the start of their dysfunction everywhere else. And so, that's, when I originally found out about you guys, that's what I really looked at, was like, holy cow, like this was actually something that could actually help benefit clients just with relearning how to breathe. And I know there's kind of two sides of this. There's the athlete side, and then there's the just kind of general population side. But I think in between that is the benefits to both sides are similar. So.
Absolutely. We one thing, we ourselves use it to perform better. We use it for the working out benefits and the training benefits and all that. Sure. So and I can tell you, I have a background of starting companies, and I have a background I've got a little bit of a background in sourcing and being able to create products and do all that. So like I said, it wasn't a deal where it was like, hey, let's sit down and brainstorm something that we can sell. But it was a thing where you read that book and it's very convincing, and it's black and white, and it's, I've told somebody else it's not very often. There's a lot of books or documentaries you watch and they're interesting and they're inspiring, and yeah, cool, I'd like to do that. This is one that you read it and you're like, it's like, it is life changing. Not to be dramatic about it, but it's like, I've been breathing the wrong way, and how many times do I breathe a day? I'm doing it the wrong way, and the effects compound each other, and it leads to so many dysfunctional effects. So, but when we started this, like I was saying, we do it for the training perspective. So we really are taking the approach, now that we have created a product, now that we are making it available to people, of, there's a lot of, okay, I don't like to say benefits to nose breathing, because it's really more a matter of, and I repeat this a lot, but there's disadvantages to breathing through your mouth. You're supposed to breathe through your nose. So why are we saying, it's like saying, the benefits of drinking clean water over dirty water. Well, you're supposed to drink clean water, and dirty water has bad effects, right?
Sure.
So we got into it, and we just want to talk, we really make our primary focus the training aspect of it.
Okay.
So
let's talk about, the training aspect of like why nasal breathing over mouth breathing from a training perspective. And then obviously we could probably just roll that into, daily life and, how it affects you. Like you said, man, you breathe thousands of times a day. So if you're constantly breathing wrong, well, it's ending up creating a dysfunction somewhere. But like, let's talk about like why nasal breathing over mouth breathing.
So I'll take this.
Yeah. Well, first off, like there are, a million things out there that you can research. If you just simply Google nasal breathing, it's going to show up nasal breathing in sports, nasal breathing in performance. It's going to give you just a laundry list of benefits and why you should be doing it and why you shouldn't be mouth breathing. Just to be clear, like we aren't scientists, but we understand, through reading this book and through personal use with the product, that it works. Like there's absolutely no doubt in our mind that it works. And that's what we've really done. We've created a product that just offers you the benefits that are already there. The idea behind the product is simply it just trains you to breathe correctly. You don't have to know all of the science behind it. You can simply Google or read whatever you need to read. But the simplicity of it is you don't need to know all of that. You need to know that it's better for you. But if you use the product, you will gain those benefits.
And like, all right, so you're asking what the benefits are. Or whatever we're calling them. The first thing that jumped out to me, like it might be in the first couple of chapters of Patrick McEwen's book, and having a background in training and all that, this jumped out right off the page, is that the first thing to understand, when you breathe in through your nose, your body produces nitric oxide naturally. Nitric oxide is a gas that is a vasodilator, opens up your blood vessels, all your veins, and improves circulation, gets more oxygen around your body more efficiently. But if you're into training, you're likely familiar with nitric oxide. I mean, it's one of the highest selling supplements there is. People are buying it all day. I had no idea that you could produce it naturally. And you can really produce it naturally to an extent that it gives you the pump, and it gives you the same thing that you're getting out of supplements.
Yeah,
so,
you probably actually produce more through breathing than you can any supplement, and the benefit is more through the breathing than the supplements.
Absolutely, because your body knows what to do with your breathing. It doesn't have to break down a supplement and do all the breakdown.
Yeah, it's a natural way to produce it without having to, go through your digestive tract and all these other areas where you're probably not even getting enough to, do much.
And it's instant, and it becomes the more you breathe through your nose, the more you can recognize it, and maybe it becomes a mental thing, maybe it's a placebo thing, but you can really feel it like mid-set when you take a deep breath through your nose. That it's like kind of a little boost or something, and it's there. So nitric oxide was the first benefit that was just I could have stopped reading right there, and you tell me, all right, you have a natural way to produce nitric oxide, it's breathe through your nose. And again, yes, it's important for performance. We want to open up our vessels so that we can get as much blood and as much oxygen around our body as we can, right? But it goes that's for the, whatever percentage of people that train and that are trying to, or that even lift or anything.
Right.
But it obviously has implications for a lot bigger part of the population, which is people with poor circulation, people. And so what I was saying about, we focus on the performance side is that there are a lot of people out there that are teaching breath work, that are, that's their life's work. That's what they're doing. Patrick McEwen, I keep referring to his book. That's his life's work. That's what he's doing. We're not being that. We're just a performance aid, but like, if anybody's interested, they can go and learn benefits. How does it affect your sleeping? How does it affect anxiety? There's certain disorders.
Let me ask you this, so you have this, okay? So what I'm understanding is you created something to kind of make it dummy proof to breathe out of your nose. And so if I put this in and I close my mouth, no matter if I'm working out or just living life, I'm now breathing through my nose and breathing properly without having to really think about it.
Correct. Yeah. And there are other benefits as well. It is a very simple product, but there's a tongue shelf in the middle, and what that'll do is place your tongue in the proper placement it'll open up your airways. And like we said, the idea is not to wear this thing every time you go train for the rest of your life. Right. The idea is for you to wear it until it trains you to breathe correctly. It puts your mouth in the right position, and obviously stops you from breathing through your mouth.
All right, so I'm going to stop you for a second because this is habit-based lifestyle. So the idea is to make this a habit to breathe through your nose correctly. And, I think that's super powerful because, have you guys tried this sleeping?
Yeah, so it's not – the reason that's a sport, we have designs for other designs for it, and there may be there's a way to make it more comfortable for sleeping, basically. Okay. It is designed for comfort while training, but it's not designed for comfort to wear all day. It's a little thicker than than I would want for sleeping. There are a lot of people that report sleeping with it.
Yeah, my fiance actually sleeps with it. She loves it, but I personally, I've tried sleeping with other mouthpieces as well. It just doesn't work for me.
Yeah, so the first time I wore this, when I first got it, I was like, holy cow, man, this is super uncomfortable. And at first I'm like, I don't know if I really want to use this thing, but it made me realize right away that I'm like, well, the reason it's super uncomfortable is because I'm breathing through my mouth and not through my nose. And so that was kind of my trigger right away. That's like, oh shit, maybe I do need to wear this more. So I can get used to breathing through my nose. And I think that may be a huge thing for people listening to this is if it's uncomfortable when you first put it on, it's because you're breathing through your mouth and not breathing through your nose. And I think that's a big thing that people want to kind of tune into is hey, if it's uncomfortable, there's a reason why. And we should look at that instead of just saying, well, it doesn't work or I don't like it. But really,
yeah, and when you first wear it, you are retraining the way that you breathe. it's something that you've been doing for an extremely long time. It's not an overnight, hey, put this in and now you're just going to feel really comfortable in the gym and everything's going to run smoothly. I mean, there are times when you first wear it, it is going to kind of feel like you're suffocating. Same way it would be if you had a mouthful of water and you're trying to breathe through your nose. But that's the whole point. That's the idea behind it, is to train yourself to breathe correctly. You're taking a step back in order to take a leap forward.
Absolutely. I mean, we get that sometimes, as far as like people, it's surprising to me sometimes that people were expecting it to be this more comfortable. Like it's not, I'm not saying put this into your mouth is going to be more comfortable than it was without this in. No, it's going to be less comfortable. It's like, you know, lifting a weight doesn't feel good at first, you know what I mean? Like it's all part of it. So I'm glad you point that out, because we do get that feedback every once in a while that it's not. So here's the deal. With that in mind, we did design it to be as comfortable as possible and still achieve what we're trying to achieve. You know, people complain. I mean, we literally have people complain that like they don't like it because they can't take a breath through their mouth, and it's like you're missing something completely. And I can't believe you bought this. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, and I mean even the tape people are like, well, why don't you just put tape over your mouth? Well, yeah, you can, but that's why we created it, because we don't want to go to the gym with tape on our mouth.
Right.
And I find that more uncomfortable. You can't take it out if you pull it. I mean, it's just, obviously to us, this is it makes a lot more sense to wear this than the other options.
To each his own.
Yeah. So a couple things is like, from a performance perspective, like it can help increase your strength. So if we have more oxygen going into our body, more blood flow, we have more strength, we have better balance, we actually have better flexibility. I can actually attest to this because I've watched people learn how to breathe correctly or walk them through breathing exercises to where they're breathing correctly, and all of a sudden their hamstrings are no longer tight, and they actually do that. So, I mean, I would love to actually use this on people to just see if their flexibility increases, but I know it will, because I've walked people through like breathing patterns and stuff like that to actually watch that happen. So I'm actually excited to use this on clients and really see how their range of motion improves. But also from an endurance athlete perspective, like how could this help them while they're training for, you know, let's say, you know, the longer, slower distance, you know, marathons, triathlons. Even me, I like to do surfing. So I'm like, all right, I think I might try this next time I go out surfing and see, you know, what happens or how I actually do for an hour, and just see what it's like. So can you expand on that at all?
Yeah. So, all right, we talked about the nitric oxide. The nitric oxide was the one that jumped off the page for me. I think the most important thing to understand that happens with as far as our physiology is concerned, with the difference between nose breathing and mouth breathing, is that you actually you take in less oxygen through your nose at a time than you can through your mouth, right? It's like 50% volume that you can take in at the same amount of time. However, your uptake of oxygen to your cells and muscles and tissues is higher. So even though you're taking in less oxygen, your cells are taking in more. And the reason that happens, we've got something called CO2 tolerance in our body. The easiest way to say it, the trigger that tells your cells and your muscles to open up and grab the oxygen out of your blood is not a lack of oxygen. It's a presence of CO2. Okay? So we want to have CO2 in our blood, and we want to build up what's called the CO2 tolerance. So we want our body, when we take a deep breath through our mouth and then blow it out real fast, it's so fast that we don't give our body a chance to recognize that there was ever CO2 in our body, right? We expel it so fast that our body doesn't say, hey, there's a lot of CO2 in here, let's open up and take in oxygen. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Our blood stays, we're pretty much always at saturated, unless we have some kind of disorder that affects like the pulmonary system or your circulation. We stay pretty much at 100%, well, almost 100% saturation as far as oxygen in our blood. So we have this idea in our head, because it makes sense to think this: if I open my mouth and take a deep breath, I'm going to get more oxygen into my blood, which is going to get more oxygen to my muscles, right? That's not how it works. We can take in more oxygen, but we don't need to take in more oxygen because our blood's already saturated with oxygen. What we need to do is get that oxygen out of our blood into our cells, into our muscles. And we do that by letting our body accumulate some CO2, letting it recognize that we have CO2 in there. Okay. So you want to breathe through your nose because it expels it a lot more slowly. And it's not just that you want to breathe through your nose. You want to breathe lightly and slowly through your nose. I mean, even at every point in your training, you want to maintain a light, they call it in the book, they call it light is right. Like you want to maintain a light. You never want that huge in and out where you're just throwing CO2 out.
Right.
Yeah. And so simply put, it's just CO2, the more CO2 you can hold in your system, the more oxygen that your muscles are going to take in.
So do we want the same breath out as the same breath in? Is that what you're talking about, that consistency? Or do we want the big in and less out?
No, it's 1-to-1 in and out, but it's just a matter of more slowly exhaling it, and you can take it in, if somebody was saying, well, I have to do my mouth for one of them, should I breathe in or out through my mouth? I would say in, again, I'm not the leading scientist on this, but you want to give your body more time to recognize that there's CO2. So you want to expel it through your nose more slowly. And that's the biggest takeaway that there is for nose breathing. So no, it's 1-to-1. It's not, you can't really build up a deficit either way.
Sure. So let's talk about recovery. So, not only breathing through your nose is going to help you recover from, bouts or sets of exercise, but it's also going to help speed up, overall recovery and cortisol, because cortisol is one of the things that kind of inhibits our recovery, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. So that's where DOMS comes from, and it's where, it delays the buildup of lactic acid as well. And, all right, I can mention this real briefly. The mouthpiece, the fact that we needed some way to hold it in your mouth, right? It was very natural, made a lot of sense to put a bite pad in there, the pad that we're biting onto and keeping it in place. That we didn't intend for it to be part of this. Our whole thing was nose breathing, but that in itself has been studied to have some benefits. So that's where some of this also kind of piggybacks and leads to more benefits of the product. So when you're talking about that, having your jaw, it produces less tension in your jaw, basically. It definitely protects you from breaking any teeth, which is not something I ever dealt with, but there are people that break teeth training,
sure.
Apparently.
Or I'm a guy that grinds my teeth when I lift.
Yeah, absolutely.
So actually, I'll put this up. Using this, I found that I grind my teeth less, but I also don't really want to open my mouth when I have this in. And so like what I've kind of found is by having this, you kind of find your comfort zone of keeping your mouth closed without feeling like putting a lot of tension, on your jaw.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we like to relate it to like once you get used to it, I mean, it's almost like leaving your headphones when you go to the gym. Once you get used to it, if you don't have it in there, it's like, something's missing. I need that mouthpiece back in order to get back in my routine.
Sure.
And it's hard to put into words. I mean, you can feel the difference. I am biased, maybe. I love the product, but I can feel the difference if I'm working with, because I will take a breath through my mouth sometimes. I mean, we created this product, and I still find myself, if I don't have it, sometimes look in the mirror and my mouth's open. It's just, I don't want to be spending my training energy focusing on how I'm breathing. That's another part of the thing. You need to be, if you're playing, especially if you're playing a sport, if you're playing at an elite level, you need all your focus and energy going into that. You don't need it on, is my mouth open or not? Not that some people even do that, but if you aren't spending it when you're breathing, then your mouth might come open. Again,
for sure.
Saying the same thing. But
now, do you guys, how long have you guys been wearing your mouthpiece?
We got our first prototypes in July. So, July nonstop, since then.
Okay. So so what have you noticed for maybe like strength or performance, since you've been doing this? Like, I know, Austin's been working out a little bit longer. So he may notice more strength stuff, performance stuff, and then you've kind of, obviously been into working out, but like, what do you notice in your workouts from doing this?
The biggest takeaways I've had so far are one, we haven't even really talked about this, but that parasympathetic state that you get when you're diaphragmatic breathing, which nasal breathing do. Typically, like, I know most guys that, before you go in and like lift a heavy weight, you're like, huffing and puffing, ready to go. And with this, it's led me to be much more calm and just sit there and like breathe in and then slowly breathe out. And then it's just my form has gotten a lot better. I'm not sure what all the science is behind that, but my form's gotten a lot better. And recovery. By far, recovery is the biggest takeaway from this. I do like, HIIT cardio. There's a big hill here in Nashville at the Capitol Stairs, and just sprinting up the hill and then coming back down, taking a breath, and then doing it again for 10 to 15 times. And the amount of time in between those rest breaks have gotten much shorter. They've gotten a lot shorter. And even when I finish the workout, it's instead of huffing and puffing and feeling just completely drained, 5 minutes after I feel like I'm ready to go. And so that's the biggest takeaway I've gotten from it, is the recovery side of it, and that calm parasympathetic state when going into it.
I would say a lot of the clients, we train because they breathe incorrectly. They're stuck in this kind of, sympathetic state to where they're constantly in fight or flight. I don't know if you guys have tried like the Aura Ring or the Whoop Band to see if this has an effect on recovery from those, by just starting to wear them. I'm going to start tracking mine a little bit more because I do wear a Whoop Band, and so I really want to see.
I do track my heart rate. I just have the Apple Watch, I can drop my heart rate I can get back to normal a lot faster than I was previous to this.
Sure.
And my fiance as well, she does Orange Theory. I don't know if you're aware of the concept. Yep. Put the heart levels on the screen and everything. And she says she's, beating everybody in the class, but whenever they stop and exercise to go to the next one, her heart rate is
already down.
Yeah. So she said, because she was doing Orange Theory previous to wearing this, and she said it's, had a really big effect on how that's showing up in there.
Yeah, and I would probably look at it from heart rate variability versus just heart rate, because really the heart rate variability is where we see the actual recovery kicking in and having an effect, on your recovery overall. Kind of what I'm hearing you say is, hey, like I definitely see the recovery in my workout from bouts of cardio to bring my heart rate down to the optimal level once I've done a hard, bout of cardio or interval, and then on the other side is, I could see how this would be really beneficial for heart rate variability, which is, a huge thing right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm saying the same thing. I'm not a runner at all. Like I just never have been. I haven't liked it. I will throw this in. The first time I noticed it, I went and ran here. We've got a little quarter-mile stretch around loop around our neighborhood. And I put it in and was going to do it for just a warm-up. And I went and I ran it 4 times. And normally for me, a mile is enough. Like I'm telling you, I'm not a runner. So it's enough for me to like at least hate it, at least hit the point where I'm just miserable. And I wasn't, and I don't now when I'm consciously, and I'm not attributing it to the product. I'm attributing it to nose breathing.
Sure.
But I'm absolutely nose breathing. And one thing that I did find helps with the product when I am running it is with the product, you can actually kind of trick yourself into, even if you want to take that deep breath with your mouth, you can basically open your mouth, take a deep breath with your mouth. It's zero airflow. So you're still going to breathe in, it's still going to pull through your nose. But you still kind of get that psychological, like, okay, I'm okay, kind of feeling to it. So anyways, I went and I did that here recently, and I came in and my wife was in the kitchen. She knows I don't run. And I walked in and I was not out of breath. I was completely fine. And I took it out and I was like in shock to myself, basically. I was like, I just went out and ran. And like, I'm not breathing. I was talking completely normal, is what I mean. Like it wasn't a huffing and puffing thing. So I've definitely noticed it if you're not a runner, throw it in. And this wasn't my first time to put it in. So maybe that had to do with it. I'm a nose breather now when I train. So it could be built up, but I definitely noticed a difference in running.
And just for like you and your listeners here, it probably sounds like we're just saying like, oh, well, we just feel really good when we're using it. But like I said, the science behind it is there. And then now that we've kind of gotten, we've also felt the same way, like, hey, let's see what other people think about it. And as we've seen these out, we have, world-renowned trainers calling us saying, whoa, like this thing is incredible. I'm using it on all my athletes now. So Jake and I, technically, we don't, run any lab tests or anything like that on ourselves. It's more so just, hey, I feel a lot better. I realize these changes are taking effect. But then there are a lot of other people out there where it has, solidified our beliefs and shown that it really is, it really does work.
Yeah, it's based on the science. Our results are anecdotal, but as we send them out, we have pro athletes, we have trainers, guys training UFC fighters. We have a former trainer of the year that like reps it for us. Like he just loves it and wanted to promote it. So the feedback is all coming back. Like, and it's like, I'll tell you right now, one thing that I'd love to say, like for people to understand, is that we created it out of necessity. Like we both wanted it and like that kind of accountability. But We're not saying it's any kind of magic. We're not saying this product's magic. We're saying, like we've already said on here, it's a retrainer. So your nose is like the miracle worker here in this situation, right? This is just simply a product to help facilitate it. If you do better with tape, go get tape. But the whole deal is, yes, you're going to perform better if you're breathing nasally. We've covered that pretty good.
Yeah. And I like to I want to point something out to this too, is if we're talking about 85% of the population is stuck breathing in a wrong way, it's not just athletes that are going to benefit this. It's from general people that, hey, you could just be going for a walk in the morning and put this in, and actually it could benefit you. Or you could be sitting at your office desk and for an hour, you could start using this as a way to kind of retrain yourself to breathe correctly. So whether you're on the performance side or kind of general population side, the benefits don't change, and breathing through your nose still is the right way to breathe, whether you're, an athlete or you're just a normal everyday person. And I would say, getting people back into that parasympathetic state is ultimately, the way that everybody's going to recover, breathe right, and provide more oxygen to their body.
Absolutely. Yeah. And Jesse, you're one thing that I tell people is that just like, okay, if you're in a sympathetic state, if you're in fight or flight, a way to get out of it is to breathe light and through your nose. Physiologically, that's what we do to get out of it. It's what you're supposed to do. So what people don't understand is that the complete opposite is true too. If you're breathing through your nose and all of a sudden you start breathing through your mouth, you're telling your body to switch on fight or flight. Right. And that kind of gets overlooked, and people should understand that, because we do have an anxiety epidemic. We have a lot of stuff going on, and again, that's not what we get into. There's other people that are experts on that, and we'll talk about it. But if people have interest in it, they should research it and find out. But you're exactly right. It's, if you're sitting at a computer all day, you should be breathing through your nose. If you can't, tape your mouth. If you don't like that, put in an Optio 2. That's basically.
If you're sitting at a computer all day, chances are you're in fight or flight. Like, let's just be honest. I work with a lot of entrepreneurs. If you're, a stay-at-home mom, chances are you're in fight or flight. Like, that's just the reality of the world we live in today, between, computers, between iPhones, between all this outside stimulus happening. I'll be more than happy to say it for you guys. Like, the majority of society is in fight or flight. A lot of it starts with breathing incorrectly.
And I don't go deep into it because people take moral objection and stuff, but people are out there prescribing things for it, and saying that 6 million or whatever students have anxiety, whatever the number is. And
well, of course you have anxiety. You're like producing pure cortisol. So
yeah, that's what you're doing. I mean, you're telling your body to do it, and it's not, it's once you understand the physiology of it, it's kind of a no-brainer. But hey, that's not.
So I got a couple things. So one is you guys, so you have a clear one and a black one. Are they the same?
Yeah, exactly the same, different colors.
So same thing. So we talk a lot about making this a habit. Like, what's one way somebody could start making this breathing correctly a habit? Like, how much do you recommend somebody to wear this per day? Or is it like, hey, just put it on for training? What do you recommend for that?
I mean, depending on your health level, I mean, honestly, to get started, if somebody does, let's say that, you're just getting off the couch, there's somebody that doesn't work out and they just want to try it out and start, breathing correctly, wear it on your commute to work, or wear it when you're doing laundry, or wear it when you're cooking. But like, as far as, I mean, for somebody in decent shape, your everyday person that works out 3 days a week or so, they're just, trying to stay healthy. I mean, throw it in and go work out. And if it's tough at first, start slow, and then if you need to take it out, take it out. But just the idea is to realize why you're wearing it. You have to know that this is training you to breathe correctly. So the further you push yourself, and obviously don't push yourself further than you can go, but the further you push yourself with it in, the more and more that you're going to be able to start accepting that way of breathing and start breathing that way in general all the time.
Sure. So I'm going to really help you guys push this to general population, because I could see how this would really benefit a lot of clients I start working with, because one of the first things I ask them to do is like, hey, I want you to start going for a walk every morning for like 10, 15, 20 minutes. But just wearing this, I could see how this would get them down into that sympathetic state and really retrain them on their walk how to get into that sympathetic state. So the rest of their day, they feel like they're not stuck in this, fight or flight reactive mode, which I think is actually really cool. And I think a lot of people could benefit from this, not just from an athlete perspective, but just, normal everyday, people that are kind of stuck in this sympathetic state. So I think this is an area that's super overlooked because I work with tons of entrepreneurs, and one of the first things that I begin to address is, stress and recovery. And I think this is something that could ultimately help with both of those.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Well, hey, do you guys have anything else? Like, what is kind of your next step or your next thing in this company that maybe you want to share with, other people? I know this is kind of new, so whatever we can do to help you guys, do this, I'd love to.
Yeah, thanks a lot. We have some more designs for a couple things that we think could be useful. I mean, again, we didn't set out to start a company on this, so we're not trying to force anything. We're not trying to come up with designs. This one's brand new. It's been out a couple months. Awesome reaction to it. We love it. But all that to say, we're going to be focusing on this product for a minute and kind of getting it out there and seeing, developing this, getting the word out about it. We do have a couple, I've told you we've got some designs, ones that are for sleep, which would also be used for what you're talking about, the stress reduction and stuff like that. And then we've got some, there is a portion of the population that isn't able to breathe through their nose. So we've got design for something that can help people with that issue too. If they've got deviated septum or there's just, MMA, boxers, big market for this, and guys that can really benefit from it hugely. And we've got some, but there's some of those, as you know, that can't even breathe through their nose. I mean, if they close their mouth, they're going to die. So we have come up with something so that'll be in the future. But like I said, right now, it's really just get the word out about this. We're on Instagram. We kind of announced things coming.
So if somebody's listening to this, like, how would they, get in contact with you guys or order one of these? Where would they go?
Yeah, I mean, we're like, it's Jake and I are the entire company. So if you reach out to us on Instagram at Optio2Labs, Optio2Labs.com. we are, if you get a response, that's me and Jake talking to you. It's not,
Okay.
we don't have an administrator or anything of that nature. We are, yeah, and I mean, and the main thing right now, like you said, I mean, we're just trying to get the awareness out there. You know, guys like you, you know, we really appreciate, you know, you guys helping us out and putting it out there. And that's really that's all we can do right now.
Instagram, Optio2 Labs. So it's OPTIO2 Labs. Not a zero, it's a O.
Okay. And if you guys are listening to this, I'll make sure I put in the show notes their website and also their Instagram page, how to get in contact with them. And if you want to order one of these, you're also able to do that through the show notes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, guys. Well, hey, I really appreciate you guys being on here. I love hearing about your product and what you guys are doing, and I look forward to getting all my clients on this now.
Yeah, Jesse, thanks so much for having us, man. Really
let us
appreciate
know
it.
if there's anything we can do to help.
Okay, awesome. If you guys are looking to connect further with a group of like-minded people, join myself and so many others in the Habit-Based Lifestyle Secrets group on Facebook, where we'll be dropping daily habits to help you live to your full potential. If you want to be one of our next case studies and begin living this habit-based lifestyle, feel free to reach out to me, Jesse at habitbasedlifestyle.com. Until next episode, have a great day.